से पता चलता है?
यहाँ पर टाइमर बंद हो जाएगा।
Well, coming back, I was informed that after 2 minutes, the session got disconnected. And probably this is the time to test one's stress management. Because with technology, things happen and we are not aware of. And therefore, I always say when occasions like these, when you are going for PowerPoint presentations and suddenly the LCD does not work. So, probably time to practice what we preach. So I was on for, I think, 2 minutes, and I was discussing about the importance of the breath. I was discussing about the story of two peacocks, one holding the snake, the other holding the mouse. And even at the last moment when both the creatures were in clutches of death, the mouse was so mortally afraid of the snake that he was fearfully dumbstruck and couldn't move. And then you had snake who was in clutches of death but still wanted to eat the mouse. And this reflects the very basic nature of the living beings, and that is the sudden instinctive desire and inability to control the tongue. That is one. And secondly, the instinct of fear, because that instinct of mortal fear results in the stress which we have. So the root cause of the stress lies in that fear reaction, with which Patanjali refers to as abhinivesh, fear of death, or fear to underline. And this causes disharmony in our own personality. And therefore, what do we do? And here you get in Maharishi Patanjali. Maharishi Patanjali, who wrote the aphorisms, the Patanjali Yoga Sutra, I regard him as one of the greatest scientists who visited this earth. And he laid down the great principles of Patanjali, of the Ashtanga Yoga for us. And when we read that, I say, if you want to understand yoga, yoga is for your physical, mental, emotional, social, and spiritual upliftment. And when you have this holistic development for yourself, and this is a path which is laid down for you. And a very important component here is the practice of pranayama. Because yam niyam is the social context. Asana pranayam is steadiness of your body, steadiness of your mind. Pratyahar, the bridge, the restraints which enables you to dwell deeper into the practices of dharana, dhyan, and samadhi. So it's a very simplistic format. We are to speak on pranayam and mind. Pranayam is a very important link. Patanjali defines pranayam as tasmin sati shwas prashwas yorgati vicheda pranayam. When someone is seated in the right posture, steady posture, and he is able to pause in his breath at the right time, this whole process is termed as pranayama. And this has very important significance because it enables the control of your chitta. In simply put, through your breath, you can regulate the activity of your mind or chitta. And naturally, we should understand why our breath is very important, because you give break. You can have phone fasting, you can have social media fasting, you can have computer fasting, but none of us thinks of breath fasting. Do you think of 10 minutes of no breath? Well, no, of course not. And therefore, that connection with the universe at every moment is what is important. And that is why the importance of pranayama. When we look further into the Patanjali Yoga Sutras and other texts. If you look at Hatha Pradipika, it says a very beautiful sutra. It says, Chale vate chale chittam nischalam chalam bhavet yoge sthanur vapenoti tato vayu nirodha. That simply means that your breath, chale vate, is directly connected to your chitta. So there is a direct correlation. And when you see in reverse, if you are able to regulate your breath, you would be able to regulate the fluctuations in your chitta. Very simple. And that is what we try to do through the practices of pranayama. Swami Kaivalyanandaji, right in 1940s, conducted research where he demystified the fact that most of us thought that we were doing pranayama for emphasizing on the oxygen consumption during the practice. And he says, and the experiment proved that actually it was the tolerance to CO2 which a practitioner increased, which benefited in nerve culture. So there are humongous amount of studies which emphasize the importance of practice of pranayama, and like we are going to try two practices because we understood about pranayama, we understood about breath, we understood the important link which breath has to our chitta, which we are able to control. And now we just practice simply two techniques. One is called Brahmari first, and second is Shitali. Brahmari pranayam is the name comes from Bhamar. Bhamar is the humming bee. And all we do is we inhale through both our nostrils. And when we exhale, we produce the humming bee sound. And there are very interesting research works which have laid down the impact of Brahmari in reducing your pulse rate, reducing your heart rate, reducing your systolic and diastolic blood pressure by someone practicing this continuously. Very interesting published paper in a good journal. And so what we remember is inhalation through both the nostrils and exhalation, and we hum the sound. Now, if one wants to imagine, the sound is equivalent or sounds the same as the N in king, the king sound. That is the sound which you produce when you exhale. And you'll see the impact, see the vibration all across your forehead in your nasal passage. And like I said, it's a great relaxant. We will try to practice this 3 times and just feel the vibrations. I'll just repeat the technique, inhalation through both your nostrils. While exhaling, you produce the sound of a humming bee. This is the traditional method as espoused in Hatha Pradipika. In fact, it goes further and it says that when you breathe in, you make a sound of a male humming bee, and when you breathe out, you make sound of a female humming bee. But right now, we're not making any sound when you breathe in. Some of the traditions do recommend closing the ears and eyes, but traditionally, that mudra is not required because one just wants to feel it with your own self through internal awareness. So let's practice this. Close your eyes and simply relax. Breathe in. Slowly and gently open your eyes. So one just needs to be aware of what has happened when you have been making this humming bee sound. And you should try it at least 10 to 15 times. You could repeat it in days, and you will feel instant relaxation. You'll feel instant uh, positive vibrations with this practice of pranayama. And like I always said, what is the difference between deep breathing, general deep breathing, and pranayama? Well, when you practice pranayama, your level of awareness on your breath is far deeper and higher than normal when you only practice deep breathing exercise. Second, in practice of pranayama, what we refer to as purak and recha, the inhalation exhalation, one slowly tries to develop a ratio of 1:2 between your inhalation and exhalation. So when you breathe in for 10 seconds, one tries to breathe out for 20 seconds. That's the ratio of 1:2. So, and that holds good for all the practices of pranayamic techniques. These are fundamental principles of practices of pranayama. Second pranayamic practices which have been very, very beneficial, which is known as the cooling pranayama, is practice of shitali. Shitali is when you fold your tongue like a tube and you get it out 3/4 inch like this, and you inhale through your tongue. And one can just experiment on oneself. If you put the cuffs of the BP apparatus and you repeat this for 15, 20 times, and if you have had high blood pressure incidents, you will see it going down. This is as effective for getting control of the blood pressure or calming and cooling oneself down. And you can see it for yourself. So we fold our tongue like tube and we breathe in. Now, 70% of us cannot do this. For them, there's an option, and that is sheetkari. Sheetkari is when you get your tongue in between your finger, in between your teeth, and try to inhale. So the cooling air goes through your mouth and tongue surface. And one needs to understand this is the only pranayama where you're breathing in through mouth and exhaling out through your nose. So let's do this 3 times. Very simple. I'll just repeat the technique. For those who you can fold your tongue, try doing this. 3/4 of your tongue is out, and you are going to inhale through your tongue and exhale through both the nostrils. For those who cannot fold your tongue, just stick the tongue in between your teeth and all throughout, just be aware of your breath. Close your eyes and feel what's happening in your body. So we'll just do it 3 times with eyes closed, body relaxed, awareness on your breath. Just feel the coolness which you have just derived after this practice. So these are simple 2 practices, and I do recommend everyone to adopt these in your everyday practice. Like I say, one needs to maintain discipline, dedication, and devotion in your practices. Try to be regular. We find ourselves inside a house during this time. Some of us who are on the front line may be working. To find these 10 minutes of time to devote to your own self, to your own practice. Like I said, the chale vate chale chittam nischalam chalam bhavet yogasthánurvapyanoti tayo tatho vayu nirodhaye. Pranayam has the ability, breath has the ability to get you in harmony. It has the ability to completely synthesize you at your physical, mental, emotional, social, and spiritual level. So I wish you all the best for your practices. It was nice to have come and interacted or at least spoken to you. Well, there was an interruption, and sometimes, we have limitations as human beings, which we do realize nowadays. So my apologies for it. Have a nice evening. Thank you so much. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.